No, sir, I don't got no bodies. Don't put me in that conversation in any type of situation. Don't troll with it. Don't rap about it. Don't even speak on it, as Boosie just got a very light sentence in the feds, and I say beating the feds because they wanted prison time from him, but he was able to walk it down.
Pooh Shiesty just dropped a post on Instagram that set the entire hip-hop scene on fire, and Lil Boosie's alleged reaction? Totally wild. Pooh Shiesty captioned his photo saying, "Only rapper that has more bodies than me is Lil Boosie."
Pooh Shiesty says Boosie's the only rapper that got more bodies than him. On another episode of Rappers Out Here Telling on Them Damn Selves, you got Pooh Shiesty talking about Boosie's the only one that done.
And what came after that post? Straight up chaos. We're talking about talk of federal cases, street rumors about paid hits, and shocking confessions that had people whispering for days. This isn't just some rap feud. This is street-level serious, and everyone's tuned in to see what happens next. Word on the block is that what Boosie allegedly said back will have your jaw on the floor. Lil Boosie's no newcomer to this. He's a certified legend in the rap game, known for keeping it real and standing tall for the streets.
Lay down more, you know what, than him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, boy, you ain't learned your lesson just getting out. Boosie probably over there like, come on, man. Come on.
But things take a dark turn when you look back at the history tied to his name. Boosie's story has long been connected to one of the most talked about murder-for-hire cases hip-hop has ever seen. Rumors of 15 bodies, a teenage shooter named Marlo Mike, and courtroom confessions that rocked all of Louisiana. Now Pooh Shiesty's out here trolling, saying he's got more bodies than Boosie, and the internet's losing its mind. But to really understand why this is more than just online talk and why federal eyes might be watching, we've got to rewind the story. Let's take it back to the mid-2000s in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Back then, the streets were boiling. Boosie was climbing fast in the rap game while allegedly running things way beyond music.
Boy, don't be out here talking about what Man, Boosie like, man, I just beat my case, man. What you doing, Pooh Shiesty? I could have swore Pooh Shiesty was...
According to old reports and courtroom talk, Boosie wasn't just rapping about the street life. He was allegedly living it for real. That's where Marlo Mike came in. Real name, Michael Ng, a teenager whose story would forever change how people looked at Boosie's rise. This kid was only 15 years old when he allegedly became Boosie's personal hitman. Yeah, you heard that right. A teenager out here catching bodies for a rap star. According to court records and Marlo Mike's own confession, Boosie was supposedly paying him to take out anyone who crossed him. And this wasn't some one-off situation. This was a whole operation that reportedly left 15 people dead. The connection between Boosie and Marlo Mike ran deep, built on loyalty, cash, and straight-up fear. Marlo Mike looked up to Boosie like a big brother, even a mentor, and Boosie allegedly used that influence to twist a young mind into a cold street soldier. Everyone in Baton Rouge felt something shady was going on, but nobody dared to speak up, because in those streets, you either stay quiet or you end up the next name in the headlines.
Reposting the F the Streets movement, right? Now he back over there bragging about...
But here's where things take a shocking turn. Marlo Mike wasn't some emotionless gangster. He was still a kid. After the alleged 15 murders, his mind started breaking down. Testimony later revealed he couldn't even sleep at night. The faces of those he took out kept haunting him. The guilt ate him alive until he couldn't handle it anymore. So what did he do? He snapped, went straight to the police, and confessed everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. He laid out names, dates, and even locations. And the biggest bombshell of all, he allegedly named Boosie as the one who called the shots and paid him for every single hit.
Putting more work in than anybody out there besides Boosie. We done heard the stories and things like that, but I'm like, man, these rappers gotta be smarter, man.
According to his statement and official reports, these weren't random killings. Every target had a reason. Some were about street beefs, others about snitching rumors, disrespect, or money disputes. One of the victims was Terry Boyd, who was shot and killed in October 2009, marking one of the most infamous names in this whole tangled case. This murder became the centerpiece of Boosie's entire trial. Prosecutors claimed that Boosie paid Marlo Mike $2,800 to take out Terry Boyd over a personal dispute, and that was just the start. Another victim, Marcus Thomas, was allegedly silenced because, as the streets said, he was talking too much, and Boosie, according to rumors, wanted that talk to end permanently. Then there was Chris Jackson, whose death prosecutors described as a straight-up targeted hit.
You get to talking like that, man. Them folks gonna be watching you. You're not helping yourself with that when it comes to that, right? You might want to keep that to yourself. You might not want to be online talking about body that you don't call. You might not want to do this.
Marlo Mike later testified that Boosie personally gave him step-by-step instructions on how to handle the job. And it didn't stop there. The list of names kept growing. Daryl Milton, Michael Smith, Kendrick Bishop, all allegedly taken out as part of Boosie's underground network. Each of those people had families, people who loved them, and lives that got cut short over street pride and rap beef. It's heartbreaking when you think about how far the violence went. But here's where it gets even more chilling. According to Marlo Mike's testimony, Boosie wasn't just calling the shots, he was strategizing. He allegedly told Marlo what weapons to use, the best times to strike, and even how to stay off the cops' radar. This wasn't some random street chaos. This was cold, calculated, and organized down to the last detail.
I'll speak on something right quick. I ain't siding with Glorilla, I ain't siding with Bro, but I do want to say
Marlo Mike told investigators that after each job, Boosie would pay him in cash, sometimes a few thousand, sometimes more, depending on who the target was. For a 15-year-old trying to survive the rough streets, that kind of money looked like everything: power, respect, security. But as the bodies started stacking up, that cash couldn't buy him what he really needed: peace of mind. According to court testimony, Marlo Mike started breaking down hard. He was haunted every night, waking up in cold sweats, seeing the faces of the people he said he killed. He couldn't eat, couldn't think straight, and couldn't escape the nightmares that followed him everywhere. The pressure of being a teenage trigger man was eating him alive, tearing him apart from the inside out. By the time Marlo Mike finally went to the police, he was done hiding. He was ready to spill everything. He gave a detailed confession for each alleged murder, naming names, describing weapons, and even providing evidence. He also agreed to testify against Boosie in court. The streets started calling him a snitch, but Marlo Mike said he couldn't carry the guilt anymore. He wanted out, no matter the cost. Then came the trial that had the entire hip-hop world glued to their screens: Lil Boosie's 2012 murder trial. It went down in May, and it became one of the most talked-about cases in music history. Boosie was charged with the first-degree murder of Terry Boyd, and the prosecution's star witness, none other than Marlo Mike himself. When Marlo Mike took the stand, the courtroom fell dead silent. His testimony was cold and detailed. He told the jury how Boosie allegedly gave the order, what kind of weapon to use, and exactly how the hit went down. He claimed Boosie told him that Terry Boyd needed to be taken care of because of some ongoing beef. Marlo said he followed Boyd, waited for the right moment, then opened fire, shooting him multiple times before running off. Afterward, he testified that Boosie paid him $2,800 and told him good job. The whole room was frozen hearing it. But Boosie's defense team came back swinging. They told the court that Marlo Mike was lying just to get a lighter sentence. They painted him as a scared kid making up wild stories to save himself. Through it all, Boosie stood firm. He maintained his innocence and denied having anything to do with any of the murders. But the prosecution didn't just rely on Marlo Mike's word. They came with receipts. They had phone records showing calls and messages between Boosie and Marlo around the same times as the murders. They pulled out financial documents linking Boosie to suspicious cash payments, and even brought in witnesses who claimed they overheard some very telling conversations. The evidence had the courtroom tense, and the entire hip-hop world was locked in, waiting to see how it all ended. The jury deliberated for hours, while fans everywhere held their breath. Was one of rap's biggest names about to go down for murder? When the verdict finally came in, it shocked the world. Boosie was found not guilty of first-degree murder in the Terry Boyd case. The moment that verdict dropped, the streets exploded in celebration. Boosie walked out that courtroom a free man, at least on that charge, and Baton Rouge lit up with noise. But the story didn't stop there, far from it. While Boosie beat the case, Marlo Mike's fate was sealed. He was convicted of several murders and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Just 22 years old, and his life was over, trapped behind bars for crimes he committed when he was still a teenager. Meanwhile, the families of other victims were left broken. They never got full justice. Even though Marlo Mike confessed to 15 murders, he was only convicted for some. The justice system couldn't pursue every case, and many families were left with questions. No closure, no peace. Investigators dug deeper into Baton Rouge's dark underground, uncovering what looked like a murder-for-hire network linked to parts of the rap scene. It was bigger than anyone thought, a world where fame, street power, and violence blended together in dangerous ways. Federal authorities started investigating connections between street beefs and the music industry, and what they found was disturbing. There were patterns of rappers allegedly using young gang members to carry out hits, paying them with stacks of cash, flashy cars, and street status. In court, multiple witnesses described a brutal system where loyalty came through fear, and crossing Boosie or anyone in his circle could mean one thing: you might not make it out alive. The prosecution tried to paint Boosie's world as a criminal empire dressed up like a rap label. They told the jury it wasn't just music, it was money, murder, and manipulation behind the scenes. But out on the streets, opinions were divided. Some folks saw Boosie as a victim, another successful black man being targeted by a system that didn't want him to win. Others believed he'd gone too far, saying he allegedly used his fame to manipulate young dudes and turn them into soldiers for his personal wars. The argument was everywhere. Barbershops, Twitter threads, YouTube comments, everyone had something to say. Through it all, Boosie's family never turned their backs on him. His mother, his kids, and his day one supporters kept saying he was innocent, that the system was just trying to twist his story and criminalize his art. They claimed the prosecutors were using his lyrics as weapons, turning songs into supposed evidence. By the time Boosie finally walked free in 2014, he wasn't leaving court for a murder charge. He was getting out after serving time for drug offenses. But while he was locked up, the streets of Baton Rouge had changed. The whole case had dragged the city's violent side into the spotlight, and law enforcement came down harder than ever. The cops weren't playing anymore. The music scene was under the microscope. Meanwhile, Marlo Mike sat behind the walls of Angola State Penitentiary, one of the roughest prisons in America. In rare interviews, he's expressed remorse, saying things had gone differently. But it's too late. 15 lives were lost, and one young man threw away his future before he was even old enough to vote. Fast forward to 2024, and suddenly here comes Pooh Shiesty with an Instagram post that shook the internet. He uploaded a picture with the wild caption, "Only rapper that has more bodies than me is Lil Boosie." Within minutes, the streets went crazy. People were arguing. Was it a diss? Was he trolling? Or was he really trying to say something darker? Here's the thing about Pooh Shiesty. Dude's track record speaks for itself. He's known for being reckless, jumping head first into trouble every time. His name stays in police reports, and almost every case he's caught has something to do with a shooting. It's wild how deep this man's history runs. Let's break it down, because what's on record will leave you shocked for real. Let's start with the King of Diamonds incident in Miami, May 30th, 2020, the night that put Pooh Shiesty right back in the headlines. According to reports, he allegedly shot the security guard at the strip club during a wild altercation caught on camera. Witnesses say things got heated fast, and before anyone could calm it down, Pooh Shiesty pulled out a gun and started firing. The guard was hit and injured on the spot. Chaos broke out everywhere. This wasn't some accidental gun going off story. No way. This looked like intentional violence in a packed club, and it showed the world something about Pooh's mindset. When things get tense, his first move seems to be reaching for that trigger, and that pattern only got worse from there. Next up, the infamous Bay Harbor Island shooting and robbery case, the one that really brought federal attention his way. On October 9th, 2020, Pooh Shiesty and his crew allegedly set up a deal to buy weed and designer sneakers from two men. But prosecutors say that instead of paying up, they robbed the victims at gunpoint. Shots rang out, and one of the men got hit in the hip during the chaos. The crazy part? The entire thing was caught on surveillance cameras. The feds claimed the footage showed everything. Pooh's crew rolling up, pulling out weapons and storming off with the goods. And here's where it gets even wilder. Reports say Pooh allegedly shot one victim in the backside, leaving him bleeding in the street while they drove off with the marijuana and the sneakers. Can you imagine? Shooting someone over some weed and shoes? It sounds unreal, but that's exactly what the case files describe. The victim had to be rushed to the hospital and undergo surgery for his injuries. Prosecutors didn't hold back either. They hit Pooh Shiesty with heavy federal charges: conspiracy to possess firearms in connection with violent and drug trafficking crimes, plus discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. That Miami and Bay Harbor stretch showed the world Pooh wasn't just rapping about chaos, he was living it. These weren't just any charges. These were federal charges, the kind that come with mandatory minimums and no mercy. When the feds step in, it's game over. They don't arrest you unless they already built a bulletproof case. And that's exactly what happened with Pooh Shiesty. In January 2022, Pooh Shiesty took a plea deal, pleading guilty to a firearms conspiracy charge to avoid an even heavier sentence. The judge handed him 63 months. That's over 5 years in federal prison. Right now, he's still locked up, and the earliest he can see freedom is sometime in 2026. And even then, he'll be on supervised release, meaning one slip-up, one mistake, and he's headed straight back behind bars. But here's what's got everyone talking. Pooh's track record paints a dangerous picture. His past shows a pattern: a man who acts before thinking, shoots first and sorts it out later. The King of Diamonds shooting, the Bay Harbor robbery, these weren't just random incidents. They showed someone who's far too comfortable with pulling the trigger when things go south. So when he jumps on Instagram and captions a photo saying he's got more bodies than Boosie, people start wondering, is he just trolling, or is there some truth behind that claim? The idea doesn't sound too far-fetched considering his history. And it doesn't stop there. Look at his lyrics. In his track FDO, First Day Out, Pooh Shiesty straight up raps, "I don't even gotta be there. I just send the addy in the back end." That's basically saying he sends money and locations to handle his problems, like he's ordering hits without ever being in the room. Sound familiar? That's exactly what Boosie was allegedly accused of doing with Marlo Mike. The scary part is, the feds watch stuff like that closely. They've been known to use rap lyrics as evidence, especially when those lyrics line up with real-life crimes. Pooh's already serving serious time for gun charges, but if he keeps rapping about hits and posting about bodies online, he's only digging himself deeper. Every line, every post could be ammunition for prosecutors and whatever comes next. He might think it's just music and clout, but to the feds, it's potential evidence. Now that Pooh Shiesty's post has the whole internet buzzing, people are split down the middle. Some fans are hyped up, saying it's just rap talk, part of the game, just another flex for the gram. But others are looking at it differently, saying he's playing with fire while he's still under federal watch. Think about it. He's sitting in prison, serving time for gun charges, and still dropping captions that sound like confessions. That's wild. The streets are whispering that this could spark something bigger than a social media moment. See, when you name drop Lil Boosie in that kind of context, it's not just trolling, it's borderline disrespect, especially to someone who already beat a high-profile murder case. Boosie's reputation in the streets runs deep. He's not the type to let someone play with his name for clout. Some insiders are even saying Boosie's circle caught wind of the post and didn't take it lightly. Nobody's confirming anything, but the talk online is that Boosie might have already responded off camera, making a few phone calls behind the scenes. Whether it's true or not, one thing's for sure: this situation's got energy, and not the good kind. And while the internet's running wild, the feds are definitely watching. They don't miss a beat. A viral post like this, that's the kind of thing they screenshot, archive, and add to files, especially when it's coming from a federal inmate known for previous gun crimes. If Pooh's trying to stir the pot, he might end up stirring his own case instead. Meanwhile, he's been keeping his cool publicly. He hasn't dropped a full response yet, but his silence is making things even more mysterious. Fans are reading between the lines, checking every story, every lyric, trying to see if Boosie's throwing shade back. But if there's one thing Boosie's known for, it's patience. He doesn't always clap back online. Sometimes he lets the message be felt offline. All this has people wondering, is this the start of another rap war or just a reckless moment from a rapper who can't stay out of trouble? Either way, it's putting a spotlight right back on the connection between music, street life, and federal attention. Because one thing's clear, when rappers turn their real-life drama into content, the internet might cheer, but the feds, they take notes. And if Pooh Shiesty keeps posting like this, he might not just be chasing clout, he could be writing his own next case file. So when Pooh Shiesty jumps online and disses Boosie, saying he's got more bodies, the line between truth and trolling gets real blurry. He might actually be hitting at something, or he might just be playing a reckless game that could cost him way more than clout. Either way, that post set the whole rap world on fire, and word is, Boosie saw it. According to people close to the situation, Boosie caught wind of the post and was not happy at all. Word on the street is that Boosie says something like, young boys don't know what they're talking about. They playing with their freedom for Instagram likes. While nobody's confirmed the exact quote, insiders say Boosie's definitely not taking the diss lightly, but he's also too smart to respond in a way that brings heat back on him. See, Boosie's been down that road before, and it almost ended his life as he knew it. He spent years fighting murder charges, sitting in courtrooms, and barely dodging a life sentence. So now, he's not about to hand the feds another reason to look his way by engaging in some social media war about body counts. Boosie's learned that lesson the hard way, and he's not repeating it. But what this whole situation really exposes is something bigger than just two rappers throwing shots online. It shines a light on the dark side of today's hip-hop culture, where young artists are out here competing over violence instead of success. They're bragging about who's got more bodies, who's more street, and who's more real, and it's spiraling into real-life tragedy. People are dying, getting locked up for life, and ruining their futures, all for internet fame and temporary attention. And the sad part, it's becoming the new normal. Pooh Shiesty is only 22 years old, and he's already buried deep in federal time, his whole career and future hanging in the balance. The streets might think it's all part of the image, but the feds, they don't see entertainment, they see evidence. And with how fast things are escalating, one careless post could turn a rap beef into another federal case. Marlo Mike is spending the rest of his life behind bars for murders he committed when he was still a teenager, while Boosie beat his murder case, but those years of fighting it left scars that'll never fade. Both of their stories are reminders that this isn't some movie or rap video. These are real people, and their lives were permanently changed by violence. That's what makes Pooh Shiesty's situation so wild. He's already facing federal time, yet he's out here posting online like none of it matters, bragging about bodies while the feds are literally monitoring everything he does. It shows just how disconnected some of these young rappers have become from reality. They're mixing up entertainment and evidence, and that's a dangerous line to cross. The feds aren't guessing, they're watching closely. They're reading every Instagram caption, breaking down every lyric, and building cases piece by piece. When someone posts about bodies or violence, they're practically handing prosecutors ammunition to use against them in court. And while all this drama plays out online, people forget the real victims. 15 lives were lost in Boosie's case. That's 15 families left grieving. And when it comes to Pooh Shiesty, how many people have been hurt or shot in the situations tied to his name? These aren't just numbers or headlines. These are human lives, real people who won't ever come home again. This is where hip-hop needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror. The culture's been pushing this, keep it real and prove your street mentality for decades, but now it's gotten out of control. There's a huge difference between telling your story and living out the violence just to brag about it for views and clout. Even Boosie himself has admitted in interviews that he regrets a lot of what went down in his past. He's talked about how close the street life came to destroying everything he built, and how he's now trying to be a better man for his kids. Whether people believe him or not, at least he's owning his past and acknowledging that every move comes with consequences. Meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty seems stuck in the middle of it all, still trapped between fame, street life, and federal eyes watching his every move. If he doesn't learn from stories like Boosie's or Marlo Mike's, he might end up another name in a long list of rappers who never made it out. Right now, Pooh Shiesty's story feels like it's sitting at a crossroads, one path leading towards redemption and the other straight into the same cycle that's already claimed too many lives. The crazy thing is, he still has time to turn things around, but only if he wakes up and realizes the spotlight that made him famous can also be the same light that exposes him to the feds. The industry is watching him closely, and so are the streets. Every post, every lyric, every flex is being dissected, not just by fans, but by investigators who see social media as a goldmine for evidence. If Pooh keeps bragging about bodies and violence, he's not just hurting his image, he's handing over proof to people who already want to keep him locked away. Meanwhile, Boosie's playing it smart. He's been through it all before, and he knows how fast things can flip from fame to federal courtrooms. That's why he's moving quiet now, focusing on family and business, staying out the way. But Pooh's young, reckless, and surrounded by voices that might not have his best interests at heart. He's chasing clout while the people watching him are building files. The situation has people across hip-hop talking, not just fans, but OGs, producers, and rappers who survived that same street cycle. Everyone's saying the same thing. It's time for the new generation to stop confusing realness with recklessness. Being authentic doesn't mean living like you're in constant danger. It means learning from the pain and moving smarter.
Because at the end of the day, these aren't just stories for clicks. These are lives. And once you cross certain lines, there's no coming back. The Boosie and Marlo Mike case already showed how fast keeping it real can turn into a life sentence. And if Pooh Shiesty doesn't change his path, he could be next in line to learn that lesson the hard way. The truth is, this culture needs a reset, one where rap doesn't have to mean bloodshed, where young artists can make it big without having to prove their street status. Fans want music, not mugshots. The energy's gotta shift, or hip-hop will keep losing its future before it even gets started. So while Boosie's past serves as a warning, Pooh's present might be the biggest wake-up call of all. He can either break the pattern or become another headline, another artist who let the streets write the ending to his story instead of his music. The choice is his, but time's running out. Fast forward to today, and the story's still unfolding. But now, it feels like we're watching history repeat itself in real time. Pooh Shiesty is still behind bars, counting down the days till his release, while his name keeps popping up in headlines for all the wrong reasons. Every time his music trends or an old video resurfaces, it reminds everyone of how fast fame can flip into federal time. Meanwhile, Lil Boosie has managed to rebuild his career, staying active in the game, doing interviews, and running his own businesses. But even he knows that no matter how much success he has, his past will always follow him. The difference is, Boosie learned how to move, how to survive the spotlight without letting it pull him back into the same streets that almost destroyed him. And that's the real lesson in all of this. These stories, Boosie's, Marlo Mike's, and Pooh Shiesty's, they're not just about music or drama. They're about the dangerous mix of fame, ego, and street life that's taken too many young rappers down before they even reach their prime. Every generation thinks they can outsmart the system, but the system always catches up. Fans love the rawness, the authenticity, the real talk in the lyrics, but somewhere along the way, that authenticity turned into self-destruction. Rappers aren't just talking about violence anymore. They're living it, documenting it, and posting it, and then wondering why the feds are knocking on their doors. The scary part is, the next generation is watching all this play out like it's normal, thinking that being reckless equals being real. They don't realize that every post, every flex, every lyric can be used against them. What used to be just rap beef has turned into real-life criminal evidence. The streets might call it respect, but the truth is, there's nothing respectable about losing your freedom or your life over social media clout. Boosie barely made it out alive. Marlo Mike will never see freedom again. And Pooh Shiesty is still fighting to make sure his story doesn't end the same way. If anything, this whole saga should serve as a warning shot, not just for rappers, but for everyone chasing fame through controversy. Because in today's world, every move you make is being recorded, tracked, and judged. not just by fans, but by the law. The game has changed. The question now is, will the players change too, or will they keep writing their own downfall in real time? He's young, reckless, and walking on thin ice, playing a dangerous game that could cost him everything. Dissing Boosie over body counts might get Pooh Shiesty a flood of attention online, but that same attention could easily turn into federal time, or worse. So where does that leave us now? Pooh Shiesty made a bold, risky move, publicly claiming on Instagram that he's got more bodies than Boosie. And Boosie, the man whose name was once tied to 15 murders through his teenage hitman Marlo Mike, allegedly fired back in his own way, warning the new generation about playing with their freedom for likes. This isn't just music beef anymore. This is real life. In hip-hop, the line between entertainment and the streets has completely blurred. When people are actually dying, when teenagers are being manipulated into becoming killers, it stops being rap beef and turns into tragedy. There's no clout, no fame, no record deal worth your life or your freedom. Marlo Mike learned that the hard way, confessing to 15 murders because the guilt was eating him alive. Now he's spending life in prison, and those victims' families are still left without their loved ones. And Pooh Shiesty, he's sitting in federal prison, facing years behind bars, yet still posting online like nothing's changed, giving prosecutors more reasons to keep his name in their files. The streets are watching all of this closely, wondering if Pooh's post will bring in more federal attention, or if Boosie will ever respond more directly. But here's the truth. When you play federal games, you win federal prizes. And both of these rappers already know that better than most. This whole saga, from Boosie's dark past to Pooh Shiesty's reckless present, shows just how deep the danger runs in the culture right now. It's getting federal, it's getting dangerous, and it's a reminder that this rap life isn't just beats and bars. It's real stakes with real consequences. So stay safe, stay smart, and remember this: clout ain't worth your freedom. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Pooh's trolling or telling the truth? Will Boosie respond? Let's talk about it below. And don't forget, like, subscribe, share, and comment if you want more deep dives into hip-hop's wildest stories. Your support keeps these breakdowns coming, so hit that button and stay locked in for the next one.